And I've told many of my friends and family about these benefits, and I've heard things like, well, I'm not sure there's a credit union near me. Well, I'm going to tell you, credit unions can pretty much be found anywhere, including right down the hall here. They got Pentagon Federal, which is wonderful to have that right here on the base. But for some other folks that may serve at an armory that is not quite as big or does not have as many resources, they're going to need to find a credit union. So how do we do it? Because credit unions don't have the biggest signs. They don't have the big flashing lights. They don't have commercials that roll 24/7. So how do I find a credit union? Well, let me tell you, credit unions are serving people in America's smallest towns and biggest cities. And you can find them pretty much anywhere. I've also been told that credit unions don't have enough branches or ATMs. Well, there's credit unions that have hundreds of branches. And for those that don't, there's the Credit Union Service Center Network and the Co-op ATM Network. These benefits will multiply the accessibility of your credit union immensely. You see, the Credit Union Service Centers Network allows you to conduct business at other credit unions' branches. So if your credit union participates, you have just under 5,000 locations that you can conduct business with across the U.S. and in Canada. So if you're a member of a credit union, and since we're in Virginia, we'll say in Southern Virginia, with just a handful of branches and a handful of ATMs, and you said, well, this is great when I'm at home, but I'm not always at home. Sometimes I have to go TDY, then we have deployments, we have to do training. All manner of things can take you away from where you are normally located. So if you were a member of a small credit union, let's say Southern Virginia, that was a part of the Credit Union Service Centers Network, you would be able to conduct business at over 30 credit unions within the zip code we're in right now. 30 locations where you can go pay your loans, pay your credit cards, conduct whatever business you have with the credit union that exists wherever you're from, and that's all across the country. And typically we see credit unions serving in places where a lot of other institutions don't, because maybe there's not as much money to be made in those places, smaller towns. But we also see them in the biggest cities as well. So there's always going to be a credit union near you, and no matter how many branches that credit union has, if they're a member of the Credit Union Service Network, you have plenty of opportunity to go into a branch if that's something that you would like to do. Now, if you're like me, you go to the ATM quite a bit when you need cash. Maybe you don't go to the bank quite as much. I heard it said today that, the young folks, and I'd like to, still want to count myself in that group, that we don't do that. We don't go into branches, and it's true. I don't know the last time I've been in my credit union's branch. But I do know that I like to use the ATMs. I like to go to an ATM, be able to make my deposit if I need to make a deposit, or get the money out, or maybe even switch some money around if I'm not next to the computer doing it online. And so when I need an ATM, I thought about that when I joined the credit union and said, I need to make sure whatever financial institution I join, there's a credit union close to where I work, close to where I live. I'm not going to drive miles and miles to find a credit union where I'm not going to be charged a fee, and I certainly don't want to pay the $3 to $5 charge every time I want 20 bucks. Well, the Co-op ATM network provides you with something that if you're a member and your credit union is a member and participates in this network, you won't have to worry about. Because if your credit union participates in that network, you will have access to 28,000 ATMs across the United States that you can use free of charge. And you can even make deposits at 9,000 of these ATMs, including many ATMs at 7-Elevens. Now, if you live in an area like me, you can't drive half a mile without seeing a 7-Eleven. And so they all have ATMs. And so whenever I see a 7-Eleven, there's my ATM. I just stop right in, swipe my card, get whatever cash I need, make a deposit if I need to do that, and keep on moving. That's a convenience that few other institutions are going to provide you, especially working with other financial institutions. If you can find me some of the larger banks that are willing to work with the other banks and let you go do stuff at their branches for free, then hats off to you. But that's usually not the case, and I've never heard of that happening before. But luckily at credit unions, you have this opportunity. And with these benefits in conjunction with online banking that many credit unions offer, it ensures you that no matter where your service may take you, you always have access to your credit union. Now, to find a credit union that participates in the credit union service center network, or to find participating locations, you can go to cuservicecenter.com. Now that's the letters cuservicecenter.com. You can go there, you type in your zip code, and it'll pull up a list of credit unions that all participate. And if your credit union is one that participates, you can type in your credit union's name to find out. You can go do business at any of the credit unions on the list, which I think is a wonderful benefit. If you want to find an ATM, or you need to ensure that your credit union is a member of the co-op network, you can go to coopnetwork.org. That's co-opnetwork.org. These are wonderful resources that we have with credit unions, and a perfect example of the credit union community. You don't see quite as much of the competition and people just trying to pull you away to get their dollars, because they're all nonprofit. So the goal of all of them is to serve people and provide them with financial services that they need, and without sapping them of those same finances that you're supposed to be managing for them. Now, I've told you a little bit about some of the advantages of credit unions and why credit unions may be a good choice for yourself. But I don't want you to take my word for it. I think for far too long, we in the general public, and in particularly among service members, have been taking people's word for it for a good bit too long. So I'm going to ask you to do something. I'm going to ask you to do something that many of us were not taught to do, but hopefully we'll teach the next generation to do as we continue to recognize how important financial services are and how important saving is to building a strong financial foundation. Now, based on my remarks today, it would be reasonable for you to assume that I'm going to ask you to go join a credit union. But that's not what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to go out and do some comparisons. I'm going to ask you to shop for your financial services. I'm going to ask you to shop for your financial services like you shop for the clothes that are in your closet. I'm going to ask you to shop for your financial services like you shop for the dry cleaners that you take those clothes to. I just want you to shop for your financial services. I want you to understand that all financial institutions are not created equal. Now, I definitely recommend that you check out a credit union when you're doing these comparisons. But just go out and shop. Just go out and do some comparisons. Do comparisons of what fees you're paying. Look at the way they treat you. Look at the services that you get. If you don't take anything else away from what I said today, please take that, because financial services are products just like any other products. Some are good and some are bad. Some are helpful and some are harmful. Some fit just right and some make you a little uncomfortable. And that's why I want you to go out and shop. That's why I want you to do these comparisons. The financial decisions we make in our life often have lasting effects, not only for us, but for our families. And finances will play a large part in most of the decisions that we make in life. But if you manage your finances properly and make sure the financial services you're being provided fit you well, then you can really make a difference in your financial situation. As I said earlier, there's always going to be problems that pop up, like the car breaking down, and in most situations there is a financial dynamic. So when that problem pops up, make sure you're in the best financial situation possible. Make sure you get the best rate on your credit card, or that you have savings, so hopefully when life throws you a curveball, you don't have to use your credit card. Whatever you do, make sure the financial services you're getting are the ones that you've chosen, because that's what works best for you. That's why I came here to talk to you about credit unions. As I said, all financial institutions are not created equal. And I wanted you to know that there's some financial institutions out there, there's credit unions out there that genuinely care for your financial well-being and want the best outcome for you. So I want to thank you guys for inviting me to come speak and for you to listen to the things that I said. And I'd be happy to take any questions you guys may have about credit unions or anything else involving financial services, because that's why we're here today, just to make sure that you guys get the information that you need going forward so you can make the best decisions regarding your financial services.